All right, let's get started.
Mhm.
Um, okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy to have you. We're just having folks trickle in. So, yeah, welcome. We're gonna get started in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting for folks to join us to trickle in. You know, us neurodivergent folks can be a little late, so we usually give folks like a minute or two extra to just like trickle in. And just so you know, off the bat, the session is being recorded. We're not recording you or anything. It's just gonna be sent to you in an email afterwards, just so you have the resources after as well in case you want to look back on anything. We're also going to share the slides. I'm going to mention that a couple times throughout because people always ask. But yeah, so no need to worry. All the slides and everything are going to be sent to you. As we start, I would love to hear where folks are joining from. If you want to share in the chat, you're welcome to. If you're going to write in the chat, just make sure if you want to write to everyone. If you write to just hosts and panelists, only Bella and I are going to see it. So just so you know. But yeah, Chicago cameras are not on. No. So yeah, it's a webinar setup. So yeah, no cameras for y'all. And no audio either. So don't worry, you're not like I don't know on on without your knowledge. So let's see. All right, Chicago, Sweden, Denmark, Copenhagen, yes, Detroit. Do not know how to say where Hannah is from. Maybe Bella knows that better. Ontario, Singapore. Oh my gosh, people are from all over. Michigan, California. Amazing. Leeds. Wonderful. I'm so happy to be here with y'all. As we get started, I just want to, we are always trying to improve what we offer y'all, and it is really important to us to get to know our audience. So I'm going to just put a little optional poll on the screen. It's completely anonymous. It just helps us get a little bit of data on like who attends these events and like how we can better cater to y'all's needs. So I'm just going to launch that. Again, it was completely optional and also anonymous, but if you want to share, you are welcome to. And it's not going to be shown to anyone else. It is just like for me and the Teemo team. So yes. Let's see where other folks are joining from. Wales, Scotland, Dorset, yes. Philippines. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I wish we like made a little map of where everyone is joining from. It's always so cool. Let's see. Wonderful. Sweden. Ah, I love. Okay, as folks answer this if you want to, I am just gonna go over a couple of small like housekeeping things. Bella, you can go to the next slide if you want to. So I'm Bo. I am Teemo's Inclusion and Belong Lead, and yeah, welcome to one of our Teemo live sessions. I'm so happy to have you. Yeah, like I said, a couple of housekeeping things. This session is recorded, so you are gonna get a recording of it after. You'll also be able to find it on YouTube after. So if you have any people in your life that you think would benefit from the session that weren't able to join in person, no stress. That it's all going to be there. There's also going to be a transcript with it as well. So yeah, that's going to be available for you. We are also going to send up the slides after. If you have questions throughout, you're welcome to ask them in the Q&A. As Bella is presenting, I'm also going to be monitoring the chat. So if you slap any questions into there, I'm going to make sure to take note of them. But the most surefire way to make sure that your questions are answered is by just putting them into the Q&A function. That should be at the bottom of your screen, and you have the option there to ask a question anonymously as well. Yeah, all right, let me end this poll, get it out of y'all's way, and make that go away. Perfect. And yeah, just as we begin, this is a collaboration. So I'm here representing Teemo. Bella is representing herself, but yeah, Teemo is so excited to be partnering with Bella again. I'll let Bella introduce herself after, but just as we begin, Teemo is a woman-founded, award-winning planning tool for neurodivergent folks. We've actually been around since 2015. Teemo was the result of a university research project that was exploring assistive tech for neurodivergent teens. And at the end of the pitch project that the two founders won, people were like, okay, so when is the app coming out? And there was no plan to make the app, but seeing the like excitement around, the project that had been pitched, it really felt like there was a need that needed to be met. So that's how Teemo came about. And yeah, it's a couple years later now. We're a team of roughly 20. We're headquartered in Copenhagen, and we support neurodivergent folks across over 150 countries to plan and take care of themselves, which is just, yeah, a really, really cool thing to get to be a part of. Yeah, we help folks with organizing tasks and, of course, self care, which is a beautiful, very thought through segue into our topic today. Yeah, just so y'all know, though, at the end, we have some really exciting features and things coming up. So I'm going to share that with you. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to Bella. Bella, the floor is all yours. And yeah, let's get into it.
Hi. I am so excited. Thank you so much for having me and coming to all of you guys to coming to this session. Thank you so much, Bo, for introducing. I'll just get into it. A little bit about me. My name is Bella. I'm a neurodiversity consultant and educator. I'm also an inclusive yoga teacher, and I'm recovering from 6 years of academic burnout. So self-care is something that has kind of been at the forefront of my just to-do list, learning a little bit about myself. I also have autism and ADHD, and I'm really passionate about self-care. So on the agenda, we're going to go through a little bit of what neurodivergent burnout is, looking at specifically what self-care is for neurodivergent people, and then also how to actually incorporate it into our routines. Because I'm speaking from a personal kind of basis, like that is a struggle for me. But before, let's try and like debunk some kind of definition of self-care. As you can see, I've made this beautiful little Pinterest board. And there's this idea that self-care is about pampering ourselves. It's about, buying specific products that is going to make us well. People tell us, oh, just slow down or just take like a spa day, but it's actually can work a little bit differently for neurodivergent people. So I really love to take, when I think about self-care, I love to think about this Audre Lorde quote: caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is the act of self-preservation, an act of political warfare. Audre Lorde speaking from the perspective of like a Black lesbian poet in the 1980s, seeing self-care as a way to kind of preserve yourself against these systemic systems that oppress people like herself as a marginalized person. And I like that definition of self-care. So when we're looking at self-care for neurodivergent people, the way I see it is it's an act of taking active care of ourselves because we're living in a world which was built or designed by neurotypical people. And that world quite often isn't something that kind of we live with us in mind, or it wasn't built with us in mind. So taking it more of the self-preservation approach. So in terms of looking at self-care as acts of preserving ourselves, we have to kind of look at what are we preserving ourselves against? And this is kind of, if you don't know what neurodivergent burnout is, it's a big, complex kind of phenomenon. But there are loads of different causes of why neurodivergent people like ourselves get burnt out. We have masking, lack of support, interoception challenges. But what I really want to focus on specifically here for a moment is this unbalanced nervous system. Because the way I see it, an unbalanced nervous system is kind of like the foundation of why neurodivergent people get burnt out in the first place. So I'm not an expert by any means about the nervous system, but this is kind of like a little crash course on what the nervous system is. So we have this thing called the autonomic nervous system. It's the involuntary nervous system, and it has two branches. We have our sympathetic, our fight or flight nervous system, and we also have the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. So I like to use the metaphor or like the example of, imagine that we were living thousands of years ago, our ancestors, and we see, a tiger. A tiger approaches us. Our body is going to put us into fight or flight because there's a sense that there's a danger. So our heartbeat might raise a little bit, our muscles might tense, we breathe more heavily because we think that we're in danger. And our brain and our body is telling us to move. But then, using this tiger example, you see this tiger, it moves away, it's not going to attack us. Then our body is telling us, okay, it's time to calm down. We're not in danger anymore. We can have our muscles relax. We don't need to run. Our heart rate can decrease because there's no danger in sight. So essentially, these two branches of the nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, are keeping our bodies safe. It's our body's way of keeping us safe. And that's just what we all have, right? So in the case of neurodivergent people, we see that neurodivergent people have often what is known as like a more sensitive nervous system. We have differences in sensory processing. We're more sensitive to external stimuli. And what happens is that when we have a more sensitive nervous system, we tend to move into fight or flight a lot more easily than your average neurotypical person. So common stresses or triggers for neurodivergent people, we are being bombarded constantly by sensory external stimuli, like going onto the bus, taking a commute, being in the office, the bright lights. Some of us struggle with transitions. These are all kind of common stresses that stress out neurodivergent people, right? So what we find is that our sympathetic nervous system is constantly in a state, or it's constantly being activated. So a little equation, when we're constantly being stressed out, our sympathetic nervous system is kind of being activated, and we don't have enough time for this parasympathetic nervous system to kick in, not time enough to kind of shake off the stress. We live in what is known as a dysregulated nervous system. We're in this constant danger zone. Our body, even though we're not in danger acutely, our body is thinking that there's always a tiger around the corner that's going to come and attack us. And that's not healthy to be in this stress state all the time. So if you ever have, for example, a stressful period, disturbances in sleep, if you kind of suffer from meltdowns or shutdowns, difficulty concentrating, and you're like, what is this? Why can't I sleep? Why can't I regulate my emotions? Maybe it's a sign, the fact that you have a dysregulated nervous system. In other causes of neurodivergent burnout, so that's just like the nervous system dysregulation. We also have things like interoception challenges. So our bodies finding it hard to notice when we're hungry or tired. Masking, so we're kind of hiding or suppressing our neurodivergent traits in order to kind of fit in, whether it be like at university, at school, in the office, whatever. And also a lack of support, not having a group of people around us that acknowledge us either or know about our disability. There's so many different kind of social ways or social factors that can contribute to neurodivergent burnout. Now, that was a lot. So I added some pictures of some seals because it is tough out there. So I just wanted to have a little bit of a palate cleanser. Whew. Okay, so self-care. What do we do? We know that we tend to burn out. We know that the world is a big old scary place. So what do we do to actively take care of ourselves in this world that we're living in? The way I see it, there are two types of self-care acts. And this is just my own little theory. I like to see it as acts of restoration and acts of joy. Acts of restoration. So this is kind of like the admin of self-care. These are the acts that, in the face of a dysregulated nervous system, these are the acts that take us from this fight or flight, this danger zone, to the rest and digest, calming us down. It's the admin of self-care. It could be some of the like unfun things to do, the unsexy things to do, but they're boring, but those are really necessary just to take care of our bodies. Using a plant metaphor or gardening metaphor, imagining we are plants. Acts of restoration are the acts that kind of make sure that the soil is nice and fertile, we've watered it, giving it, making sure that our environment or our bodies, if we're plants, are in the prime environment to grow and develop. So one of my favorite top tips or ways to reset the nervous system is actually breathing. And breathing could just be, for example, putting attention to your breath. It could, doing some sort of guided meditation on YouTube. But essentially, when we are breathing and paying attention to our breath, inviting oxygen into our bodies, we are essentially telling our bodies manually, it's like a manual reset. Like we're not in danger. We are giving ourselves permission to, calm ourselves down, right? And the thing is that meditation and breath work can be super inaccessible for neurodivergent people. People tell us, oh, just try meditation or just breathe. That can be really unhelpful. So one of my favorite things to do as a yoga teacher, as someone who practices yoga, is this equal parts breath, this thing that you see on the right here. Holding for 4, inhaling for 4, exhaling for 4, and just imagining a square, because sometimes, especially as neurodivergent people, we would need something to kind of focus on. So if there's a moment in your day in your office and you're just like, well, I really just need to, you find yourself panting a little bit, or your muscles are tensing and you're just feeling a little bit stressed, just taking like 1 minute out of your day, imagining the square, inhaling for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4. And that's just one of the ways. There's loads of YouTube videos. Sometimes it could also be helpful to be guided through. There are loads of kind of tutorials online to have someone guiding you and talking you through breathing. And it's just it doesn't always come intuitive to us to just breathe. But once we know that and we remember that, then actually it's a really good tool to kind of reset everything just physically from a physical perspective. Acts of restoration, regulating the nervous system. There's so many different ways. So moving, spending time in nature. I don't know, maybe you guys can pop down in the chat, just write what your favorite ways to kind of restore yourself. And maybe you're doing a lot of them without realizing that these are actually regulating your nervous system. I know for me, I love to just sit or even put on some music and just stim it out. Dancing, putting on your favorite song. And I did this even before I knew I was neurodivergent. And I think it was just my intuition's way of just, my intuitive way of shaking off stress or just moving my body in a way that, will allow me to kind of self-regulate and calm myself. I love doing that. I still love doing that. Yes, loads of different ideas here. I'm excited to see what you guys write in the chat after this. And then also ways to work with your interoception challenges. So this, just to remind you, interoception is your body's inability or like your challenge to kind of notice when you're hungry or you're thirsty or you need to pee. Sometimes as neurodivergent folk, we need systems and reminders to tell us to remember to eat or, get up and touch grass, go outside. An app like Teemo, for example, shameless Teemo plug, you can set reminders through the app just to remind you to eat breakfast. I'm someone who will sit at my laptop for like 3 hours straight doing work or hyper fixated, and I'll just like look up and then realize that I've had to pee for like 45 minutes. So for me, a reminder on my phone would be extremely helpful to remind me, okay, just go up, move your body a little bit. Yes, those are little hacks from me to you on how to work with your interoception. I don't know if that's something that you kind of guys can relate to, but that's something that's really big for me, especially when I'm hyper fixated on something. And then we come to what is known as acts of joy. So these are the activities that infuse a little bit of joy and meaning into our everyday. Again, using this gardening metaphor, acts of joy. So now we've got the soil. The soil is watered. It's in the sun nicely. If we are plants, in this metaphor, acts of joy are now, we are planting more seeds. We are growing. These are the activities that promote growth and, exploration and learning about ourselves. And people may ask, like, why are acts of joy actually important? My nervous system is regulated now. I'm, safe. I've sorted out the kind of like physical stress symptoms. But as I mentioned at the start, masking and not having a community is a really big contributor to why a lot of us get burnt out. A common feeling amongst neurodivergent people is this feeling of maybe being a little bit lost or not, we've been masking all day at work or at uni or at school. And sometimes maybe we ask ourselves, who am I behind this mask? So these acts of joy allow us to connect with ourselves under the mask, connecting with our authentic and truest nature, that kind of bring us home. And these can be acts of joy, can be things, activities that you do by yourself. They can be activities where you're connecting with a wider community, like the community that we're part of right now, of people who might also be neurodivergent, but just get it, where we feel acknowledged and supported for our truest selves. So now, because you were advised or instructed to bring a notepad, time to get your notepad out. We're going to do a little bit of a reflection just for a minute. I have 2 questions here. Question number 1, or you can mention it in the chat if you don't want to, if you don't have a notepad, if you want to share. So question 1, what is an activity where I feel my most myself? How do I feel when I do this activity? Am I confident? Am I relaxed? Am I excited? Maybe I'm goofy, maybe I'm cracking jokes, like lame jokes, which we love. And the second question, who are the people in my life where I feel the most supported, no matter what I'm going through? Like, who is your tribe? Who are the people that I come to when everything has like gone wrong and I just need someone to talk to? Like, who are these people? So yes, I'll give you like 1 minute to reflect. No pressure. Yes, okay, cool. There's a timer here. I love technology. Okay. I feel like we should have some elevator music, but I won't do an a cappella rendition. Just, yeah. It's exciting. I can't wait to, I don't have any access. Oh, I can read the chat here. Okay. Yes. Oh, my screen sharing is paused. I'll go back to screen sharing. Okay, 20 seconds left. And as Bo said, these slides are going to be made available to you. So if you don't feel like reflecting now, then maybe coming back to these when you feel like you want to spare a moment. Okay. And if you want to share them in the chat, please feel free to do so. Okay. So now we've reflected. These are just some more ideas for acts of joy. I really like the idea of rediscovering a childhood hobby, because I don't know if you guys had the same thing, but when I was a kid, I was really into drama and dancing, and I was a musical theater nerd. And then I got told it wasn't cool. And actually, looking back, that hobby was a really big outlet for me to kind of express myself. So if you have a similar experience, maybe coming back to the things that you used to do when you were a smaller version of yourself. And yeah, before going back to the things that aren't cool or what you were told were not cool, that's always a good way to kind of connect with your inner child. Being alone with your special interests, that's another great act of joy. Classic. Yeah, my special interest, nobody asked, but I have the microphone. My special interest is actually creating a spreadsheet of all of my favorite Ritter Sport flavors. I have different categories. It's a whole thing. That's my special interest. I love spreadsheets. Yes. So, okay, we now come to like the hardest part, which is how do we incorporate self-care acts like in our day-to-day life? We have our acts of joy, we have our acts of restoration. Now, what do we do with it? We need systems. We need to kind of organize it because a lot of people have so many great ideas for self-care, and they know that they actually actively benefit from doing these activities, but they forget that they exist. Story of my life. So how do we get into this? Let's work it out. So question, scenario. Maybe you guys can relate to this scenario. This is more of a, like a back to work season special. So you're coming home from work. Come home from work and you're completely drained. You have a headache, you have brain fog, you find it hard to even start a conversation with your roommate. Maybe you guys can relate to this. This is a really stressful situation. So how can we use self-care in this scenario? So number one, a really important thing is to identify what your stress signs are. So in this case, it is this brain fog, it's this headache, not being able to have a conversation. And then reflect on like what caused these things. And then we can use our self-care act as a way to kind of resolve or to as a reaction or as a way to, yeah, take care of ourselves in this. So if we break it down, if we dissect it, we can see that actually you've had maybe sensory overload from the commute, being on the train, being on the bus. You've had to wear formal clothes. Like sometimes even like being in a suit can just be a lot for like the sensory system, different textures. You've been task switching all day, so going between like you're asked to do a presentation and then be in a meeting, that can be really hard for neurodivergent people to go between two different types of tasks, as we all know. Been masking. So these are kind of our causes, the things that, you know, have caused these signs of stress. So we're taking these causes and then we find an act of restoration or an act of joy that kind of mitigates the effects of the stress. So for example, and this can also be really different from different people, and you might need something different on one day in comparison to another day. So you have sensory overload from the commute. So you come home and you put your noise canceling headphones on. Great. If you've been task switching all day and that's something that you really, you know, find hard, doing something repetitive. Stimming, crochet actually really helps me. If I'm having to use my executive functioning skills, like these kind of this task prioritization, this very cognitive part of my brain that it makes me super drained, just coming home, putting, you know, my headphones on, doing some crochet, super great. And wearing formal clothes, yes, just putting on so soft and loose clothing, right? A lot of these things, these acts of restoration, we might already be doing out of intuitively without, you know, actually consciously thinking about it. But sometimes it's good to remember. For acts of joy, you might be masking all day. You might be having confusing feelings like this alexithymia, not being able to kind of understand your emotions. This can all kind of, you know, we can help these feelings, we can help these causes by, for example, if you've been masking being alone. Sometimes the biggest thing you can do for yourself as a neurodivergent people is, you know, remove any sort of social situation. If you've been feeling misunderstood at work or, you know, feeling a bit lonely at work, just texting the friend who gets it. You know, we all have that friend. I have like a good 5 friends on my friendship list in my head, where I can just text or call them and be like, listen, I had to tell you something. This is the tea. Yes, in essence, that's what it is. So yes, finding acts of joy and acts of restoration, matching it with these causes of what is causing our kind of overwhelm, causing our nervous system to maybe be activated. in our everyday lives. And that kind of forms your routine. So that is our self-care formula, everybody. Taking our acts of joy, acts of restoration, and we schedule them into our everyday life. And that is it. That is the routine. I can't do math, so I think this technically means like divide, but it doesn't matter. It looks pretty, so it's fine. um, and this is also a really important point. Self-care is not always easy. In contrast to what we saw at the start, where it's like just putting on a face mask or just like, I don't know, lounging around, going to a spa or whatever. Who has the money for that anyway? Point is that self-care for us, especially, it's not always easy. It's about discipline. It's about um, putting structure. Actually, time goes into kind of doing this kind of inner work with ourselves to work out what it is exactly that we need and how to kind of accommodate ourselves living in this life, being in our body, um, and creating ground rules for yourself. So, example of ground rules. For example, you might be someone who really is socially drained from hanging out with friends. And you might love your friends. They might be a hoot, but you find yourself when you come home from hanging out with them, you are completely drained. And the next day is like written off. So maybe if that is you, having a rules like if I've hung out with my friends for one evening for dinner, the next 2 days are recovery days. So I'm not going to see anybody. That could be a rule for you. If you find yourself super drained or stressed out or whatever after university, maybe a rule for you is like, I'm going to spend 30 minutes on grounding exercises. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes, it can be 15 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. And that could be your rule. Maybe, yes, that is if you feel like you come home with more adrenaline and more stress symptoms than you have actually at work. Maybe the way that you reset is coming home and calming yourself down, going back into that rest and digest. That's a rule. Yes, and also it's really important to note that, like as I said in this last slide, that self-care is about setting boundaries with people, and boundaries are really hard. I think neurodivergent people, I know neurodivergent people often have the tendency to be people pleasers. We want to be everything for everybody all the time. Maybe that's not something that you experience, but that's actually something that I've encountered when I've been talking to a lot of neurodivergent people in my community. We want to please everybody. And people might say, hey, oh, why can't you come out? Or like, oh, why don't you come out with me on a Sunday? Like, why are you always tired all the time? And, my biggest piece of advice is that you don't need to explain yourself to anybody. Self-care or setting these ground rules for self-care is very, very personal. It can be really hard to neglect your own needs versus the needs of others. But if you keep pushing down your own needs and not listen to your body when it needs to rest, that eventually is going to get bottled up and it's going to explode. And then you might get burned out. So, yes, setting boundaries and not having to explain yourself to anybody. The overall takeaway is take it easy on yourself. Self-care is a journey. It takes a lot of time to work out what it is that works for you. You might come into a situation where, you might never ever find your own golden self-care routine. It is something that will probably like grow with you. It will grow with you because we as humans, our needs fluctuate. Sometimes things might not work the same that they did 10 years ago, last week. We're growing, we're changing. That's what's a part of being a human. But it does get easier when you start to kind of ask yourself, look into yourself, and ask, okay, what is it actually that is causing me to be burnt out? And how can I just do those little steps? One step at a time, I would say, is the most important thing. Yeah, so take it easy on yourself. That's me. Thank you so much. I
My
will leave it to
gosh.
Bo.
I wish there was a like clapping feature with like auditory clapping, but I see all the little emojis. Very cute. Thank you so much, Bella. I'm getting much joy out of reading the comments. Everyone was so sweet. I love these sessions always. It gives me so much serotonin. But yeah, thank you so much. Next slide, we're gonna transition into a couple of Teemo things, and then there's gonna be lots of space for the Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, slap them into the Q&A. You can also ask them in the chat, and we'll get to them in a moment. But yeah, I just wanted to update you on a couple of things happening at Teemo. I know most of y'all here are actually Teemo users, so this shouldn't be anything new to you, but just so you know, we have a really good session next week with amazing neurodivergent therapist Pasha Marlowe on navigating relationships as a neurodivergent person. Also really, really important. Pasha is amazing. They've done a course with us and I'm so, so excited. So really, really good place to ask your questions as well. And yeah, I am sure there's some body devilers in here, but if you've never joined body deviling, we have over 12 hours of sessions a day with 9 hosts located really all over. And I would love for you to join. It is basically a space to do whatever feels better to do in the company of others. There's a lot of people who do their self-care things because it can be really hard to take care of yourself when you are, left to your own devices. So I often use those sessions to like make sure I've eaten and do things like that. So I would love to see you in those sessions. I host at least 2 hours a day myself. And yeah, it would bring me great joy to see you. You can find all the info for signing up both on Luma actually and in the app. And then let's see, there's a course on leading as an ADHDer that is going to be released tomorrow. So look out for that if you are a Teemo user. And then the last very exciting thing is we really listen to what folks actually want. And one of the biggest requests has been a beta or a web planner app, which means that actually from now on, you can plan your life with Teemo on your desktop. And that's really nice for those of us who maybe get like overwhelmed on our phones. You have a bigger layout and everything. It all syncs across devices. And that is available as of right now. It's in the beta version right now. And the official like big boy version is going to be out next week. And next slide. Amazing, gorgeous. Well, you actually get a month of free web planning with us with the code Take Care. Yeah, we just wanted to give you a little goodie. And just thank you for joining us today. I'm just gonna slap the links in the chat. Beep, beep, boop. Yes, here we go. And then there is one more little present giveaway that we want to share. So next slide. If today felt like a catalyst for taking better care of yourself, then Bella's workbook is a very, very great companion to start their journey. Really, truly perfect timing because this is one of the new resources that she's created. I've taken a look through it. It has some really, really helpful, gorgeous, amazing, affirming, and just like, yeah, thoughtful resources. And I really highly encourage you to take a look. You can I shared a link in the chat. You can go through that. You can also scan the QR code, get 25% off as a thank you for being here today. Share these resources with your pals. There's no limit. You can share them with whoever you want to. We'd love for you to take advantage of them. And yeah, that's kind of it. I think it's time for a Q&A. So yeah. Oh yeah. And hello, there's a Reddit. We have a Reddit now. I just started using Reddit. I kind of regret it because now I want to spend all my time on Reddit, but here we are. Please join me on Reddit. It's a small community, but it is fabulous. And yeah, whenever we have these sessions, I'm like reminded of how wonderful folks are. And yeah, I just want to find a space for us to get together. So anyways, questions. Bella, we have questions here for you. So the first one
Yes.
is, how do you regulate your vagus nerve?
Oh, that's a really great question. So I can't speak as a play on a, I can't speak as an authority on this topic. Um, So I would really recommend going on to YouTube or doing your own research. But from what I have kind of learned is that a lot of it is to do with all of the kind of bodily, yeah, your body from the waist up. So for example, tugging on your ears, putting a little bit of light pressure on your ears, um, tracing your neck downwards with your fingertips. You can also tap on your chest. That's also a really great way. Yes, and looking, yeah, there's loads of different exercises on YouTube, but those are the ways that I do it. But do your own research because yeah, it's
Well,
yeah,
we'll get a doctor on the next
please.
webinar as an expert. Amazing. Okay, next question. When we find ourselves in an extended period of dysregulation, are there any tips on how we can get things back together and regain positive momentum?
Again, great question. I think resist the urge to just be productive because I feel like in that question inherently it's like, oh, we have to kind of be get things back on track. I think start really small. Think about your primal needs. I write about this in the burnout book actually. It's like you're eating, so nourishing yourself, and like really like even if it means having to like eat frozen food, just just being as energy conscious as possible, resting, looking into like the different ways that you would like to rest or like are actively need to rest. And also reaching out to a supportive community, texting, like you need your social as well. We're quite social beings. Yeah, and just doing everything a little by little and don't overwhelm yourself. If you're like, okay, I need to get back on the wagon, it's been like a week of being like dysregulated. Like, no, just take it really bit by bit and start adding activities or tasks extremely, yeah, slowly. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Also, just like asking your community for support.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by a lot of fellow ADHDers who, we all go through our cycles of burnout and not being in burnout. We just like hold each other and support each other in those hard times because thankfully, they have not all overlapped yet. So, yeah, asking your community for support is always really nice too. Next question, how to prioritize when scheduling routines and activities?
How to prioritize. Ah,
Yes.
yes. Okay. Task prioritization. Okay. Actually, I really like to do this. So I write a list of all the things I need to do, and then I write from a list of 1 to 3 how urgent they are. 1 is the most urgent thing, like I need to do this right now, and 3 is something I can do like next week. And then just take all of the ones for a day and say, okay, I'm gonna do 3 tasks, line them up, and then be like, all right, I'm gonna actually do the rest of these tomorrow because they can wait, you know. So do it like that, systemize it. Um, Again, I talk about this in the book. This is such an interesting thing that people are like wanting this to talk about this because task prioritization is such a struggle. And honestly, like I would just say, just take it easy and don't overwhelm yourself. Better do little than do too much and overwhelm yourself. Yeah, and get that dopamine of like actually achieving something, even if it's just one thing. Get that little boost, right?
Yes, 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 yes. I also love the Eisenhower matrix. If any of y'all have tried that, my therapist like explained that to me like a couple years ago, and I was like, oh my God, amazing. It's kind of like what you said, where it's like a matrix of like urgent and important, and then there's urgent and important, urgent but not important, and yeah, you kind of organize by that, and it has helped me so much. I'm trying to get it into Teemo so you can do it in the Teemo app. Fingers crossed. But really love the Eisenhower matrix, and I actually have a course on it in the Teemo app. Not plugging, but I actually do just genuinely love the Eisenhower matrix. So yes,
I'm gonna
recommend.
look into that.
Yes, I love. Okay, Echo asked, what's your favorite act of joy right now, Bella?
Oh, thank you for asking. I think it is. it sounds really boring, but just like touching grass and sitting in nature. And like I have this one specific meditational app. I can't remember what it's called. It's called Otherworld or something. Othership. And it has breath work. It's a breath work guided meditation. And that makes me feel so great. It makes me feel human whenever I need to calm myself down. Um, yeah. And I love going to the movie theater. I live in a really cute little town in Copenhagen, and it's so small and so like kitschy. And I like just to go there and just sit and be in the dark and just like absorb media. Yeah.
Amazing. I love. Okay, and then tips on how to not have all or nothing thinking when doing lifestyle changes.
Yeah, I struggle with this myself. Pass. No, I'm kidding. Mm, I would just say maybe break. So if you have a task, or okay, it's a lifestyle change. Well, maybe break it up, break up this change up. I don't obviously know the context, but try and like dissect all the little things that you can do. And I know it's really hard to not necessarily like try and do it all at once, but just be like make it a challenge with yourself and say, okay, if it's something like I want to start running, don't try and run a 5K like tomorrow. Just do a little bit by bit. And then that's also going to just encourage you to achieve it in the long run instead of just like trying something crazy and then getting overwhelmed and being like, I'm not going to touch it anymore because that's something I also really struggle with. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yes, progress, not perfection. We love. Okay, a Teemo related question. When is body doubling coming to Android? I wish I had a good answer for you, but it is available on Luma now, and you can access all of the sessions there. So I'm just gonna actually slap a link into the chat as well, so you can find it there. Yeah, really sorry it's not on Android yet, but it is going to be hopefully soon. Yes. Okay, it is in the chat. Um, okay, there's a question. Can you tell me some examples of what masking can look like?
Ooh, it looks very different for different people. Masking could be in a social situation, you're mirroring the person next to you. Like if find yourself like nodding a lot and it's subconscious, or like, if someone's got their arms crossed, you might subconsciously cross your hands. It can also be suppressing your natural body movements. So if you're someone who likes to stim like me or play with my fingers, you might kind of force yourself to sit still. Masking could also be coming up with excuses for being late, saying, oh, it's because of like my commute, but maybe it's something you were late because you were finding it hard to get up in the morning and you're just coming up with a neurotypical excuse. Like masking can be something that is very like broad across like the social and the physical, the emotional. Yeah, but it looks differently in everybody. And it doesn't always have to be conscious. A lot of us do it without realizing.
Yes. And then any tips on what finding self-care activities, any tips on finding what self-care activities work for you?
Mm, you know what? I mean, for me, I would say looking back at a really good day or a good day, a good Sunday where you feel really genuinely good in your body and your spirit, and then start to think, okay, what was it I actually did? Was I with people? Was I not with people? Um, what did that make me feel? Also looking to what you like to do, as I said, like as a child, before you were were told certain things were like good or bad. Yeah, just listening to yourself and maybe even journaling a little bit, maybe using some of the journaling prompts that we did earlier. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Also we did a course with someone called Matangi on creativity as a neurodivergent person, and they actually created a whole list of like art practices that you can do. It's in a
Oh,
PDF format where you can like circle what resonates and what maybe sounds exciting. and it actually really helped me. So obviously that's just one part of self-care, but if you wanted to see that, it's a really great resource as well. Yeah. How do you find motivation to reinitiate self-care if you're stuck deep in neurodivergent burnout?
Could you repeat the question? Sorry, I was trying to
Yes. Let me find it.
brain.
Oh, now okay,
Oh no.
wait.
Full stop.
Okay, here. How do you find motivation to reinitiate self-care when you're stuck deep in neurodivergent burnout?
Ooh. Well, I think mm, because self-care shouldn't feel like a chore. I don't know. I feel like self-care shouldn't. There are some things that are like important for us to do, like taking care of ourselves, like eating and resting, and sometimes that can feel like a chore. So maybe making those things more easy for yourself, like lowering your standards, actually. That's my general rule for everybody who's like struggling with neurodivergent burnout. It's just lower your standards, because you do have you probably do have big expectations for yourself. So for example, feeding yourself, trying to, you know, bathe. You don't need to take a shower twice a day. It could be once a day. But how that relates to self-care, just try and find the self-care activities that are super simple, and super, it doesn't just going outside on your balcony for 5 minutes and taking in some vitamin D from the sun, taking a walk, just like really, really like simple things. And that's kind of, hopefully, if they work well for you, rejuvenate you and your essence, your person. Yeah, so lower your standards and just take it like really, really, really small first. Yeah, see how that
Yes.
works.
I have a I have a list, the very autistic saying, but of like basically like high, medium, and low intensity self-care things. And I just like
Smart.
keep it around because it helps me when I'm like really just when I don't have the spoons to like do things to just look at that. Because then I just have the really easy stuff right there. Even things like reading a book when I'm like really drained are like too much for me. So it's really just like thinking about what for you is like a high or low intensity thing and really like dividing it that way has really helped me so much. So yeah. Okay. Dee. Okay, a couple things. So Bella, the code doesn't work, someone said, so maybe we'll look into that. If it didn't work, please just send me an email. We'll make sure to get you set up with that. You can also always message Bella on her Instagram if you want it. And then let me see a couple of other like smaller things. This webinar will be available to be rewatched. We're gonna share on YouTube, and I'm gonna send you a link like sometime tomorrow morning when it's like uploaded or processed and all that stuff. In terms of body doubling is actually free right now. It is free for another couple days at least. I would love for you to join. So yeah, all the sessions are in Luma. They're also available in the app itself. And I can actually also just share a link to the session directly with y'all. I'm just going to do that in the chat while Bella answers the next question, which is, how can you find your tribe that sparks joy?
That's a great question. Wait a minute. I think start with instead of trying to find people at first, go with like what interests you. So if for example you're really into knitting, then just try and find people who are also into knitting. This actually sounds really simple, but this might also be helpful. Teemo as a community, are people who are neurodivergent. They might be able to, understand the things that you're going through. And also just try and maybe broaden your search. Does your tribe need to be physically, like, does it have to be like an in-person thing? Can it be online? Can it be in the form of community sessions like this? Yeah, try and keep an open mind, actually. That's a big thing, keeping an open mind. Just try something at least once. If you've always wanted to try rock climbing, you've heard like rock climbing people are really cool, but you're too scared to try it. Just try it. You don't lose anything for trying, and you might be surprised. So yeah, be curious, embrace your curiosity, because I've been to so many events where I've been like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna hate this, but I actually really like this activity, and I've come away with loads of friends. That's actually how I found yoga. I thought I hated yoga or yoga types, and actually like yoga teachers and yoga people who they are really cool and genuinely really down to earth and not so, you know, we all have stereotypes and stuff. So, like so just keep an open mind. That's what I would say. How about you, Bo?
Mm, Yeah, I mean, I'm quite introverted and I don't really like to do outside things with new people. So I've actually like not to plug things again, but like just actually the body doubling sessions give me a lot of the like community space that I need because it's just a lot of other people like finding it hard to like brush their teeth and like wanting support. And I've actually found some really like wonderful connections through that. So that's really nice. Reddit, Discord, all those things, even dating apps, honestly, like if someone has neurodivergent in their profile, like wonderful. We already have one thing in common. So yeah, those have really helped me. Yeah. Also just growing up in places where like it was really hard to find people who like had similar identities to me, like those things have always helped. Glad we live in the age of the internet. Wonderful. Um, okay, a question from like way back, but um, any tips on like when you have a low appetite and you're trying to like eat healthier? Yeah, just like making sure you get your
Yes.
nutrients in when, yeah.
Um, I really feel this because I'm on stimulant medications for my ADHD, so I don't actually feel like I can, I don't know, don't feel hungry all the time. I really love prioritizing breakfast. Smoothies are so great. I feel like smoothies were made for neurodivergent people, just like chucking in as much like protein powder, um veggies, putting it all in. And again, it sounds really like simple, like just make a smoothie. But like actually it's it can be quite, uh easy to know, and also kind of gratifying to know like, oh, I've gotten all, like a lot of my nutrients in this one thing. And again, setting reminders on your phone, and yeah, prioritizing like eating a little bit throughout the day, and embracing snacks. I think snacks are really important. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. And also any any food is better than no food. I think that's a
Yes.
really important reminder for me every time. Yeah. So let's see.
Oh, I love seeing the
Another
chat.
I
Oh,
know it's so
cool.
good.
I'm learning a lot. Oh.
um yeah, someone just asked like how do you build a community? I actually am wanting to maybe do a webinar around that, around like community building as a neurodivergent person. That sounds
Mm.
interesting. You should let me know in the chat. Also, if you ever have any ideas for sessions, let me know. But yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, other than the thoughts you already shared. Uh, yeah,
Mm,
community building,
yeah.
hard one. um, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. How do you navigate the feeling of I don't have time or urgency mindset to prioritize self-care and fun? Yes, big one.
I think, yeah, I mean, if you look at your day of what you need to do, so if you prioritize your tasks, like the things that you actually need to do, like pay bills, like being an adult, um, and then making sure that you do those things, and then just like actually actively blocking out time for it in advance. So not, if it helps, maybe looking at your calendar and being like, okay, actually making it an event and not just leaving self-care as like oh, maybe if I have time, like actually like that is a really great way to prioritize it. So making it kind of like the same um kind of urgency or the same type of like layout as if you were to go have a doctor's appointment, or go and visit your grandma or something, so yeah, that's a good way to kind of make sure that it's not just like on the back burner. Yeah. What would you say though?
Yeah, I think very much, yeah, similar. I know this is one that I've like struggled with for a long time, because it's like, yeah, sense of urgency is like so hard to get rid of. Actually, just like, um, yeah, reading the book Rest is Resistance actually really helped me. So like if you're an audiobook person, the author actually like voices it, which is really nice. And just like basically having post-it notes everywhere, like reminding me that like my worth is not connected to my productivity and that like yeah, like it's progress, not perfection, all this stuff, because like it's so hard
Mm,
to just get like wrapped up in like, I don't know, the rat race. So yeah, just
yeah.
constant reminders. Yeah. Um, yeah, rest is productive. Yes, it is. Okay. Um, related to the question on dysregulation, how do I recover right after having a meltdown or being overstimulated? Love. Yes.
Oh, feel this. Um, Again, lower your expectations for yourself. If you have a meltdown, maybe before you have to go to something social and you don't feel like it, and you probably won't, try and not go to that thing, because that might kind of make it a little bit worse. I'll tell you what I do after a meltdown. I turn down the blinds, I order food, I play Candy Crush, and I watch a show. That's what I like to do. Lowering as much sensory input as possible, and just being really, really, really kind and slow with myself. That is something I would say. Um, but it's different for everybody. But just try and be the kindest voice to have the kindest voice to yourself. Um, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I also just have like a emergency kit of like
Ooh.
something to have with my hands, sunglasses and earplugs, just like on lock wherever I go. And that's honestly been like a really small thing I can do for myself too, that like always really helps. So yes. Um, okay. Then Dominica asked, I always thought that the acts of joy, sometimes called celebration, are the ones when I appear happy to others, like listening to loud music and dancing or something. Seems I was wrong. A calm, focused activity or being alone with my special interests can be acts of joy, and can they help stimulate my parasympathetic nervous system? That's a mouthful, that word.
Yeah, is that a question? Like, can it be an act of joy? Yes, absolutely. Like, it doesn't have to be social either. If you're introverted, not all of us are super social. An act of joy can just simply be being with yourself, because that is what is going to make you be your most authentic self. And you don't have to perform for anybody. There's no expectation. So absolutely, yes. You've got the answers already.
Love. And just so y'all know, in terms of body doubling, we're really working on like making the experience as good as possible right now. And we are gonna have more and more US times, or like North America, or you know, that side of the earth times, as soon as possible, as soon as we like figure a couple of things out. Right now we have sessions, I think until 5 p.m. Eastern time, but we are working on just increasing that over the next couple of weeks. So yes. And if you would like that, write me an email, because that helps me make the case to management. So, okay, let's see. What advice would you give to past you during your student years? Yes, I'm having a tough time starting uni again, and it's stressing me out a bit.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. I really feel this. What I would say to my past self, or maybe advice to you, is that you're there for school, you're there for university. So I think there's a lot of buzz, depending on which country you're in, there's a lot of buzz on being social, um, and, kind of meeting up with your pals or your classmates afterwards. Um, that is not a obligation, that is a suggestion, or that is an option. You're there to study, not to be like you're there to study, but more like you're there because you're passionate about a subject. um, enjoy that, and then everything else is just a bonus. I would also say if you have the access to it, or if you have the ability to sign up for some sort of maybe help from a disability support, that can maybe help you get extra time on exams, a mentor or whatever that your university can give you, I would definitely do that, because it could be such a good help just down the line, knowing, okay, I could get an extension for this without being in trouble. So that's more like the admin kind of stuff. But yeah, just don't try not to get carried away with having to do all these other extracurricular activities. Just focus on why you're there, focus on your intention, and just know that, yeah, yeah, it's a marathon, not a race. That is any kind of advice for anyone going into any academic institution. It is a marathon. So yeah, try and pace yourself. Yeah.
Yes, I also love people finding each other in the chat. It's so
Yes.
cute.
People are
In
exchanging
terms of
numbers. I love it.
in terms of body doubling, by the way, it's a community space, so you're not paired one-on-one. I would personally find that like nerve-wracking. I know that there's body doubling services out there that do that, which is wonderful for people that resonates with. For us, it's just a community space, so you can choose the host, and then folks just trickle in and out of the session. So yes. Um, okay. How do you get back to looking for work after a long period of not being able to work due to depression, burnout, whatever?
Ooh, looking for work is hard because that's something that I've had to go through. I've been on like this, the job center for ages. Um, yeah, I think I would say like be really honest with yourself of like what kind of jobs that you want, and what jobs you can do, because a lot of us actually can't work 9 to 5 full time, and that's so okay. That's what I did when I was searching for jobs. I accepted, I can't be in an office from Monday to Friday. I will burn out. I can do it, but I will burn out. So just kind of make a list of like all of your needs, your ideal kind of working environment, and then try and tailor your job search for that. And also just kind of like with going to university, it's definitely a marathon and not a race. And like a lot of these things are super, um, it's it's you just have to be lucky. You have to be in the right space at the right time. So try and not get too hard or down on yourself if you're not getting a job offers. And remind yourself. And also be with friends, and don't just be on your laptop trying to search for jobs or LinkedIn all the time. Um, Take time for taking care of yourself outside of this job search, even though it's really hard and you just want to like, go on job index all the time. I'm speaking from experience because that's been my last kind of like 6 months out of uni. So yeah, and good
Yeah.
luck.
And then someone said, as a late diagnosed ADHD person, how can we tap into companies or organizations that are ND friendly?
Ooh, I don't know how we can tap into, or
Like how
like
we
what is
can
that?
find, I'm guessing is what
Oh,
they're, yeah.
you know what? Actually, I would say that okay, when you're looking at like at a job posting, is this in the context of like finding a job, or
I don't think so. I think it's just like, how do you find community? How do you find, yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm pretty
um,
sure.
go on the website, see if they have anything written in the accessibility part of the website, whether they actually, even if you're not looking for a job, seeing if when they are advertising jobs, whether they say anything about, disability status, or like, if they welcomely invite like people, to apply, who are of like different like abilities or like backgrounds, because that's a really good telltale sign of like, okay, do they know, are they like cool, or are they willing to like, accept different walks of life, if that makes sense. Yeah, and also just call and ask. I don't know, like I feel like sometimes the best thing to do when you don't know is just to reach out, even though that can be really scary. It can be on mail, like call them, DM them. Yeah, I don't know if that helps, but that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also just like starting small, like if you use any sort of social media, finding folks on there that like whose like story or whatever like resonates with you, or even like finding a company that you really like and like seeing who they partner with and all that stuff. Like a company that I'm obsessed with, for example, is Auticon. They hire mostly autistic talent to work in the tech space, and like just seeing like who they partner with has like given me a lot of like ideas for companies that like I think are cool, or even like resources like my earplugs, like seeing who Loop works with, like yeah, that has helped me. There's also just amazing like nonprofits all over the world who are doing really great work in the neurodiversity space. For example, like I've never been to Australia, but like the work that's happening there in the neurodiversity space, fantastic. Folks are doing really cool work, just like all over. So yeah, I think just keeping your ear to the, I don't know what that saying is, but
Yeah, to the
just being
ground.
curious,
Yeah,
maybe. um, okay,
language.
let's fake anyways. Okay, let's see. um, okay, another food related question. This makes me think we should have a webinar around food. I'm actually a pastry chef, so maybe I have
Oh my
ideas.
God.
Okay, it's starting. Okay,
You're
I'm
like
gonna
thinking already.
ask.
You're like,
I know, I'm like, I'm gonna ask, eating almost always feels like a chore for me. Any tips on how to make eating feel a bit easier?
mm, simplify it. You don't have to be a gourmet chef. I think I like to like have a little rule where it's like, okay, I don't need, but like I want to aim for like one kind of protein, one vegetable, just one, even if it's like a potato, and then one carb. Um, just and making like that kind of thing. It could be a stir fry, it could be whatever. And also like try and think about what like the easiest way for you to kind of eat. And eating is so personal and it can be kind of sensitive. Food is, yeah, inherently personal. But for me, I know that I won't eat a whole apple, but if I can cut it up, that makes it so much easier. And, have make it, so I can use my hands again, so in a way of to maybe stim in some sort of way. Yeah, what do you think, Bo, since you're the pastry chef?
Oh no. Yeah, I think really just like leaning on like the textures. And honestly, if it's really hard for you, like distracting yourself, if like food doesn't
Mm.
feel fun, just like watch your favorite TV show and start associating it with things that like actually bring you joy. I think, yeah, also just like demand avoidance stuff is like really hard for me. So just like the lowest effort, if liquids feel the best, just like liquids for now and just like kind of ramping up. But yeah, really focusing, I think, first on making it more pleasurable through like pairing it with things that feel fun or eating things that like are good. And then you can go into the like healthier options. Ideally healthy food tastes good too, but just like, lowest, like the easiest thing first and go from there. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, okay, let's see. Beep, beep. Have you ever tried building Lego sets as a form of self-care? More expensive than a spa day, though. God, yeah, you're so right.
I love that. Yeah, I've never done that. I wasn't into Lego as a kid. It was too small. I felt like that it was a little bit too small for my hands, or like it was too bit like too complicated. So my mom would get me the Duplo or I don't know. It's like the bigger version of Lego for like smaller kids. I don't know. I was never really into Legos, but yeah, a bit too complicated for my brain to build something. Duplo,
My
yes, thank you, Amy.
Duplo come through. Yeah, my partner is a big Lego person, and it's such an expensive hobby, but it's so fun. Uh, but actually, we discovered yesterday that there's a Lego Idea Hub where you can actually vote on like fan ideas for Lego sets, and I highly recommend you check that website out because there's really cool ideas on there. So, yeah. Let's see. Okay, Sagana asked, what are some ways we can find neurodivergent friendly tech workspaces? Ooh, I love. Okay. Bella, do you have any thoughts,
I
feelings?
No, I think you're the best person to answer this question, though. Go for it, babe.
Okay. um, Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of Europe specific ones, or actually no, like so I think if they focus on like diversity in general, like sometimes they also focus on neurodiversity. One that does it really well, I actually used to work there, is Pleo. Pleo is a fintech based in Denmark, but they hire globally. They are fabulous. I really suggest you check them out. They have a really good neurodiversity program. There's also companies like Ubisoft. There's actually like surprisingly, because it seems like neurodivergent people really like gravitate towards the tech space, there's a lot more coming, like a lot more resources being built for folks who work in the tech space and are neurodivergent. If you want to have a chat about any of this, you can find me on LinkedIn. I will put my name in the chat, and
Ooh,
then
corporate.
yeah, maybe wow, so corporate. You can also email me. I don't know. Join me in Body Double. We do not have to be corporate, but yeah, I. Oh, and actually, Teemo's hiring a front end developer right now. So if anyone wants to work with us and they're a developer, reach out to me because we would love to work with you. Um, okay, let's see. And next question. Ah, beautiful. We got a sweet affirmation in the Q&A. Thank you, beautiful souls. Hope you'll both relax after. Oh, how will we both relax? There we go. Bella, how will you relax after this? I would love to hear.
I was thinking about ordering some Vietnamese food and watching Industry on HBO. If anybody watches Industry on HBO, it's like my current obsession. So watching some TV. Yeah. How about you?
I am taking care of myself by honoring that I don't like the Pilates teacher whose session I signed up for and not going because I think it is gonna feel less restorative than I wanted to, and just going on a long walk with the cows near my house. It's gonna be wonderful. So yes. Um,
Love it.
yeah. Okay, there's a question asking where we're from. Where are you from?
Ooh, I am half Danish, grew up in England. My mom, I don't know, okay, there's so many facets to that question. My mom is Nigerian and Irish, and I'm half Danish, but I grew up in England. That's why I have a weird mangled accent. Yes, I'm a child of the world. I don't know, yeah, but I'm
Third
very
culture
mixed and
kid.
multicultural. Yeah, third culture kid. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, my answer is not any less complicated. I grew up in the UAE. I'm German, and I call myself German American because it's easiest because I've got American schools my whole life. So here we are. Um, accent fire emoji, exactly. Okay, a couple more questions. Let's see. Ooh, thank you. Can I see the chat later? If you have any questions that I missed, can you slap them in the chat again, please? And then we will find them. Yay, Ireland. Let's see. Thank you. We will relax, I hope. And then yeah, with Teemo hiring, I am glad I answered some of it, but always reach out to us. Honestly, we always partner with really cool folks like Bella, even if it is for a course or webinar or anything. We are always game, and like, yeah, we work really like closely with our community to make the product as good as possible. So like, there's a lot of room to collaborate. So if you want to reach out to me, you're always welcome to. I'm just gonna slap my email into the chat as well, and it's right there. Um, the chat. The chat is, I think it's recorded. I will double check actually and see if I can get the chat to folks. I think it is possible. Yes, Alma. Okay, perfect.
May I
Um,
also say, if there's any questions about the presentation or anything, I'm gonna put my Instagram in the bio in the chat now, just in case if you want. I know that this presentation will be sent to you, but if there's anything that you were like, oh, I learn more about that, and I'm happy to give as many resources away as possible. Help each other. There we are. Sorry, carry on.
amazing. Um, if you get the chat, yes, absolutely. I could filter out stuff. And then web app, I will send the link so you can get the web app, and then beep, beep, that's the web app. And let's see, are there any other questions? Yes, the Eisenhower matrix in the app, it is something I'm pushing for. Hopefully, we're a small but mighty team of 20, so we really have to prioritize what our amazing developers spend their time on, because actually all of Teemo is developed in-house from scratch. Very, very cool. But yeah, it is something I'm like very actively pushing for because I think it would be so cool. But there's actually a big boy release of Teemo that's going to be coming out that's going to really focus on improving the core experience over the next little bit. It's going to roll out in the fall, and I'm going to host a couple sessions to just like prepare folks, because I know that change can be like really intimidating. So I hope to see you in those sessions as well. Link to the workbook. Bella, will you reshare that?
Yes.
Actually, no,
absolutely.
let me share that giant text, and then folks can find it.
Thank you.
Let's see. Perfect. Here we go. And yeah, I think those were the questions. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. And like I said, you're going to get a recording as well as the slides tomorrow morning in your inbox. Bella and I are also going to host this session again in a couple weeks or something. So if there's anything that you would ask live again, you're so welcome to join us. I love the chat. Thank you all so much.
Oh my God, the chat. This is the most supportive.
I told
chat.
you,
or
yeah.
Like, I was like really nervous before starting this, and I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, no, they're so loving. And I'm like, I know, but like genuinely, thank you so much, guys. Honestly.
Thank you all so much. These sessions always just, give me so much joy. It's really amazing. We are freaking awesome stuff. Yes. Join me in body doubling. I would love to see you there. It's a very similar, very sweet vibe. It is fabulous. And if you have any ideas for future sessions, please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. We do all this to make y'all feel supported, to make y'all feel seen, to give you the resources a lot of us didn't have as we were growing up. And yeah, anything that we can do to bring you amazing experts like Bella is basically what I live for. So please, if there's anything, just always reach out to me. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope y'all have a gorgeous rest of your day. Let me stop the recording.